Welcome to CastOFF. This is the show where we pit two contestants against each other to recast some of your favorite movies with some actors who've never done the part before. I'm your host, Craig Price. It has been 15 weeks, 15 long, cold weeks throughout the winter. But tonight, we will see who will be crowned the best caster in the internet. We started off with two divisions, the veterans versus the newbies. And over those 15 weeks, we whittled it down to the two men who are going to be fighting it out tonight. And in that time, we've had 12 movies, 2 TV shows, a total of 99 points scored, 1 tie, our first shutout, and it all comes down to tonight. The final of Season 2. Rob Irvin versus Chaz Evans. Let's start with Rob Irvin, who has run the gauntlet of Utah to get here. He started off with the beautiful and talented Valerie Cameron from Movies That Make Us, where he almost shut her out at the Royal Tannenbaums, 5-1. He then moved on to another Utah staple and co-host to tonight's competitor, Patrick Beatty of Gaggle of Geeks, where he also put a thrashing on Jurassic Park. And then...
that was Boogie Nights.
Oh, it was Boogie Nights. You're right. It was Boogie Nights. Sorry. But it was still 5-1. Then we moved on to Tracy Mangum. He wanted to make sure he could get all the Movie That Make Us people. That one was a highly hard-fought, highly contested, down to the wire, 5-4 victory, where Tracy, the only person in the history of the cast-off to shut out anybody. He has run the gauntlet, and every single one in the veterans who made it this far, that, my friend, is a difficult slate of people to defeat. So that is impressive. And then, of course, tonight he has Chaz Evans. Now, Chaz has also run the gauntlet, but not necessarily of the veterans, and certainly not all of Utah. He has, your co-host, Rob, Jen Rome of the Clubhouse Podcast. He squeaked out a victory over the Watchmen. Then Richard Jensen from Celtic Ray Films. Then I say squeaked it out, but he did a good job beating him out in Heat. And then Jake Dietz, Movies That Make Us. The trilogy, the final third, they all made it to pretty far. But he squeaked out another one last week with Parks and Recreation, 4-3. And now the two meet for the first time, I believe. And we will see who will be the best caster on the internet. Let's start off with Rob. Rob, how are you, sir?
I am well, and I have to give credit to Patrick because he's the one that beat me at Jurassic Park in Season 1. So I want to make sure he gets proper credit for that. And that was a tie that went to the tiebreaker. But
well, that's what the problem was.
Go ahead.
I said that was the problem. I was looking at all my PowerPoints and I had them mislabeled. So I was like, oh, this is Patrick.
But, we're staying warm. We're staying safe down here in Texas during Snowmageddon 2, The Reckoning, almost 10 years to the day after it happened when we hosted the Super Bowl. So it's been a little crazy down here, but we're keeping safe.
And no power issues. I know that there are a lot of people in Houston where I used to live, and my wife and I used to live, having a lot of issues, a lot of broken pipes. We here at CastOFF, we want everyone to be safe. My co-host Alan Cerny lives in Houston, so hopefully he's doing well. I haven't heard from him because
80% of the state was without power.
Yeah, well, when you try to avoid the feds, that's what happens.
I'm not going to debate you, sir.
Well, yeah, when you deregulate, you do not have to upgrade or maintain. But it was a great run you had there. We had Valerie, who is, I think more people are afraid of Valerie Cameron and facing her than anybody we've ever had. Even Randy. Randy is like, oh, I can take Randy. But when they say I'm going against Val, everybody starts to freak out.
Well, and Val is an amazing human, and I'm a huge fan of her. And I just felt bad she was a little under the weather that day, but she really did power through in a great contest. And I was a little intimidated because the night you announced that movie, she was like, I'm 80% done. I'm like, I haven't watched the movie again yet. So, but I had a great. I always love talking about her. She's just amazing, and I'm a big fan.
And then Patrick Beatty, he has been gangbusters. I mean, not everybody had a great 2020. He did. He's been professionally. He's been moving up the ranks. He's now on ABC, the local station in Utah, doing the things. He's very excited for him. But that wasn't anything for you. You said, I don't care. I'm going to put the squash on him.
Patrick, also a great competitor, and I want to thank he and Chaz for having me on Gaggle of Geeks just a few weeks after we talked about the movies of 1991 with Randy Redacted, which was a lot of fun. Patrick is he makes me laugh. He's hilarious. He knows his stuff when it comes to reviewing movies. I love the coverage that he did of Sundance. He did an amazing job, and I like that guy a lot. And
then finally, you ran up against Tracy Mangum, who I think was high in his own supply because he had just shut out the great Randy Redacted, and you came in and squeaked it out.
Well, and Tracy also, I mean, the guy's run more marathons in the last month than I've run in my entire existence on this planet. And his drive, I was genuinely concerned about that one because how do you recast The Office? I mean, you can see, it came down to the last pick because it's so hard to do. And Tracy definitely gave me a run for my money on that.
I would say, how do you recast The Office? But they did.
By technical definition, yeah.
So, yeah, you think it's difficult, but they did it. But yeah, absolutely. And tonight, you will be going up against the great Chaz Evans. Chaz, how are you, sir?
I'm hanging in here in Utah, just waiting for the snow to fall.
Yeah, it's
got
also cold there. Not as cold as Texas, which is weird. But
yeah, dude, it's only 32 here. Texas, I believe, is definitely below freezing. I've seen some videos.
Yeah, we're in the teens right now.
Yeah, doing the boiling water challenge thing where it turns to dust in midair.
So you had a pretty good run as well. You started off with Jen Rome, Rob's lovely co-host at the Clubhouse podcast. So you got a little revenge as well. So you both have knocked one of each other's co-hosts out.
Yeah, I mean, it's all leading to this. The final countdown. But no, Jen had a lot of good picks, and it was my first time doing it, and so it was very nerve-wracking, especially with seeing how she was trying to cast them. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I did this right. It made me second guess all my picks.
Well, I don't think that ever stops. I think you start recasting, and then when someone says something, you go, oh, that is so much better than mine. Even if it's not, you just automatically assume because, and this is going to happen tonight, there's a lot of great picks on both sides. I want to say you guys brought your A game, and there's going to be a lot of people going, ooh, that's going to be a tough one. But then you went on to Richard Jensen, and that one, I think you started to get a little bit more comfortable. We did the great movie Heat, which is really helpful.
Yeah, we did Heat, yeah.
Had you ever seen Heat before then?
I have not, no. I rented it, and I gladly rented it. I'm thinking about buying it still. And Richard even had a lot of trivia facts about that movie, which I thought was really cool how he brought that aspect to the casting.
Yeah, that's what if there's one thing this show can do for someone, it's introducing you to Heat. I don't care what happens to the rest of the show. Nothing ever happens again. The show ends. We don't do anything. But the fact that you were introduced to Heat, I feel we have done God's work here tonight. The season has been worth it. And then finally, you went up against the only one that has not defeated Rob from Movies That Make Us, Jake Dietz, who's a great guy. How was that?
That was another tough one because he gave us Parks and Recs, and after watching Rob's and Tracy's with The Office, I'm like, I can't get harder than that. And then you were like, Parks and Rec. I'm like, dude, that's equally as hard. How can you do that to us? And Jake had a lot of solid picks, and so that was definitely a close one, and I think he did a great job on that.
Well, I'm going to wish you guys both good luck tonight. And before we start, just a quick reminder that every show is sponsored by Matinee Heroes. And this weekend, apropos of nothing, so I don't want you to get too concerned, Rob Irvin, who we recorded this weeks and weeks ago, Rob Irvin will be on to do The American President as we finish up Rom-Com Month. So Rob Irvin, he was on, and if you if you like him here, you'll definitely like him on the show. So let's go on to the rules. The rules have not really changed. Where I'm going to give a character, you're going to give me an actor. Best choice gets a point. I have picked one. If you get Craig's secret selection, you get an additional point. Or sometimes the best choice and my secret selection are not the same, but that's rarely the case because my choices are the best choice. But that is a good way, if you get far behind, to get back to either tie or back in the lead. Person with the most points wins. If there's a tie, double feature to win, and we'll get to that when and if it's needed. The only difference between this and a regular show is I have brought in a slew of more judges. I wanted to make sure this was as fair as possible. So not only have I judged, but Elizabeth Rapp, Brendan Agnew, my co-host Alan Cerny, and Derek McCaw, 5 judges to make sure. So whoever got 3 or more votes wins. So don't, if you have a problem, don't complain to me. I was just one fifth of this. I was a 20% of the whole solution. So let's get to the most underrated great movie of all time, The Shawshank Redemption. And we're going to start with, obviously, the star of the show. That is the great Tim Robbins as Andy Dufresne. We'll start with Rob. Rob, Andy Dufresne. He starts off as a mousy accountant type who may or may not have killed his wife. And by the end of it, he is a pretty wily, hardened, but still has hope criminal.
Well,
so who do you have?
When you're casting Andy Dufresne is, I kind of liken it to when Keaton played Bruce Wayne. You have to be able to look at him and go, something about that boy ain't right. You have to be able to look at him and say, whether you know or not whether he did it, you have to be able to look at him and say there's still a possibility that he may have done this thing that got him sent to Shawshank. And I automatically gravitated to the great Timothy Olyphant. I am such a fan of this guy. I mean, you look at him right there, and it's just like, he might have killed a man and a woman. And a cat.
You pinpointed it right there. You can't pick someone like, I don't know, Rick Moranis, because you have to feel like he could do it, right? And Tim Olyphant, he feels like he's dangerous, but he could be just a guy who was screwed over, and he could be also smart. You got to have someone who can portray intelligence, because Andy Dufresne, his only weapon is his brain, and it is a sharp, sharp knife. So Chaz, who do you have going up against Timothy Olyphant, who was in some great, he's not in a lot of movies, but if you need a modern day marshal, Justified, Deadwood, he was also the marshal in The Mandalorian. So if you need someone to be a marshal, so who do you have going up against Timothy Olyphant?
Well, I love Justified, so I think this is a great pick. I went with somebody. I took the same approach as Rob did, with somebody who kind of doesn't feel right, and the character that comes to mind with that is like when you're watching The Prestige, Christopher Nolan's The Prestige, and there's this movie, Shawshank Redemption, has like a lot of magic at the end, sort of, and it's like right in front of us the whole time, but it's not revealed till later, so I went with Christian Bale.
Absolutely. Yeah, because Christian Bale, he was your pick in Heat.
He was, yep.
I went back, yes. The Batman trilogy, Empire of the Sun, Newsies, The Prestige, all of these movies you can find at matineeheroes.com. We've covered them all because Christian Bale is a fantastic actor. I don't know what a person he is, but he's definitely, as an actor, he's great. But if you're on the crew, steer away from him, okay? So we've got the great Timothy Olyphant, the fantastic Christian Bale. I went with Leslie Odom Jr. A lot of you may have seen him in Hamilton. I wanted somebody that, again, looks really smart, looks like he could be an accountant, but could he have done it? Possibly. Timothy Olyphant wins.
Oh,
and with that,
really
Rob...
you had that, Chaz. I really did. Great pick, sir.
Well, with that, Rob, you have scored the 100th point of the season. We went 99, that's 100. All right. Woo-hoo. Now to what I feel is the real star and anchor of this movie. This is the reason Morgan Freeman narrates everything. Before this, he just had a great voice. After that, he was the voice of God. He was everything. He describes your life. And he is playing the great Ellis Boyd, Red Redding. So we're going to start with you, Chaz. This one's got to be the hardest one, because how do you replace someone like Morgan Freeman?
Well, his character is kind of, with the voiceover and stuff, it's kind of reflective and kind of like wise toward the end. Like it's like his own journey with the voiceover and stuff. And I was originally going to go with somebody who's like quite older, kind of like Morgan Freeman status, but I went with somebody who's younger, who I think can still pull that off with modern day audiences. So I went with Donald Glover.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yes. The thing about him, he is too talented. He can write, he can direct, he can act. He does a hell of a Lando Calrissian impression. But yes, absolutely. Donald Glover is a great choice. Rob, you've got a tough one on that one.
Brother, you ain't lying. For me, the first thing I had to think is it's got to be somebody that works well with all the fans. And it's got to be, I actually went the other way. I wanted to go with that older, wiser, sage guy that also that understands a grounded performance, but also understands the level of gravitas that Red brings. And in the original short story, he actually is a red-headed Irish guy, which is where the line, maybe it's because I'm Irish, comes from. But I kept it in the same vein, and I went through the man who is the president, Dennis Haysbert.
Yes, Dennis Haysbert. And if you've ever listened to the podcast, you've heard me regale you with my meetings with Dennis. He's a very nice guy. I had lunch with him and Charles Dutton one day. Very nice guy. He's got that deep, soothing voice. You just had the car accident, so hopefully you know him better than the rest of us, thanks to State Farm.
It could be Allstate, sir.
Allstate, whatever. But he's been around forever. He's in the movie Chaz saw Heat. He's in Major League. I love him.
That Serrano, you're like, that's the same dude.
I know. Random Hearts is where I met him when he was filming Random Hearts, and he was in The Dark Tower, but we know him as the president in 24 and a bunch of other things. So we've got Donald Glover, Dennis Haysbert. Since Leslie Odom is my Andy, I'm going with a Viggo Mortensen as my Red.
Interesting.
Because I think we switch him up. Viggo's great. And they decided, and despite the fact that my vote was in there, Dennis Haysbert. It is now 2-0. Rob has taken a 2-0 lead.
It's the voice. He has that great voice.
He does have the voice. And I could hear him listen and narrate the whole thing.
Yep.
So now we get to Bob Gunton, who is in the William Atherton A-Hole Hall of Fame for us at Matinee Heroes. If someday I'm going to write a book, and it's going to be called the William Atherton Hall of Fame, and we're just going to have all the a-holes that ever have played on. And he plays the great Samuel Norton, the Warden. So Rob, who do you have playing the Warden?
I kept going back to the glasses here, and I had to go with somebody who you look at and you go, this is a person that's in authority, and he's really slimy. And he doesn't care if you know it or not. And I had to go back to one of my favorite shows of the last 20 years. And I went to an Alias era Ron Rifkin.
There you go. Now, is that the picture you wanted?
That's close enough. Just put the little glasses on him and you're
right.
Good to go.
He is known for playing like the tough administrator in like LA Confidential, JFK, The Negotiator. He's always in command, but he's always kind of a jerk. Ron Rifkin, that's a great one. When I saw that on the list, I'm like, ooh, that's a new one.
I'm such a fan of that dude. He is amazing.
He is. He's really good. And he can play bad guys, and he can play sweet guys, too.
Well, in Alias, you think he's not at first, and you find out that he's just the most evil man on the planet.
Well, that's how it always works.
Indeed.
Chaz, who would you have playing the Warden?
So I don't know who the other guy was. So that's
you don't know Ron Rifkin?
I know it's over my head. I'm young, so
that's
bear with me.
Oh.
Yes, and I'm old. It's okay.
That's a little underhanded compliment as well. He's like, "Oh, I'm young. You old people." Oh.
So I went with a movie that came to mind. Like the guy's character kind of reminded me of somebody who's like really backstabby right off the back. Like when you see him, you don't trust him right from the get go. You kind of know what he's about. And Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards has a character that really shines like how evil people can be. So I went with Christoph Waltz.
Absolutely, yeah. He's always known for playing intelligent schemers, like he was in Glorious Bastards, but also when he played in Django Unchained. He's kind of a little schemer, but on a nice side. He's like the opposite of Inglourious Bastards. He also is Inspector, so he's Blofeld. And then, of course, just to throw in, hey, everyone makes mistakes. He's in Horrible Bosses too.
Everyone
Oscar winner in Horrible Bosses too. All right. So we got Ron Rifkin, Christoph Waltz. I'm with David Strathern.
Nice.
Which, if I had a picture of him, you'd know exactly who he is, Chaz. Chaz is sitting there going, you old people.
He's that guy in the movie, of every movie you've ever seen.
Well, so is Ron Rifkin. Ron Rifkin's that guy. But you can't go against Christoph Waltz. Christoph Waltz is just a powerhouse. And Chaz, you are on the board, down by 1, but you are coming back slowly but surely. I can feel it. Now we move on to the great William Sadler, one of the great character actors of all time. I love him as Death in Bill and Ted. But here you get to actually see his face. You get to see he's got a little charm to him, even though he's kind of a bad guy. He's Haywood. So we're going to start with Chaz. Who do you have replacing Hayward, the lovable but slightly stupid inmate?
Well, so there's an actor who was recently in a movie, probably in the last 3 years, who has a similar role, who is like really good with the supporting role. But he plays like a dumbwit cop in three billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. So I went with Sam Rockwell because I think he has that.
Right.
Yes, Sam's great. He can play a convict in The Green Mile, a Stephen King adaptation, so he'd fit right in. He's known for dancing in his movies. We saw him in Iron Man 2. Love him in Moon. And just to let you guys know, F Nazi Month is coming out at in next month, and we're going to be doing Jojo Rabbit, so we'll be recasting Sam Rockwell. And so Sam Rockwell is great. We all love him here. Rob, that's going to be tough.
It's coming out swinging, brother. For me, I wanted to think about somebody that could have that rugged look. Like, he's supposed to be there, but he doesn't fully belong, so he belongs enough to be part of the group. And this is a guy that I think has had a great renaissance in his career in the last 4 to 5 years. And I went with Ethan Hawke.
Ooh.
Thought he would be a really good pick for this role myself.
I think Chaz liked that one. I heard a ooh from the crowd.
I think both of these picks in this one are absolutely straight.
Everybody's been great. Ethan Hawke is fantastic. Even though he's been in some big films, he's known to be that independent film icon. He's really great in all these, like the Linklater Before trilogies. But he's even in, the Dead Poet Society and Training Day, both we've done at Matinee Heroes, and Boyhood. So Ethan Hawke, he's been great. It's really interesting because Ethan Hawke has the baby face, and then overnight he turned into like a prospector from the 1800s. And so there's only 2 pictures of him. Either he's young like this one, or he's 105 years old. It's crazy. So we got the great Sam Rockwell. We got the great Ethan Hawke. I went with Bill Burr.
Ooh,
because
very nice.
After seeing him in The Mandalorian, I feel that Bill Burr can act. Before, he was just doing Bill Burr and everything. But here, I feel like he could, the way he was waiting to kill that guy in the garrison this season, I think Bill Burr would kill it. But we're going with Sam Rockwell, and we have tied it up. Good job,
Very
Chaz.
nice.
Well, now we move on to someone who is playing a hard ass, but is actually a sweet, sweet guy. Clancy Brown as Byron Hadley, the chief of he's the top screw. So we're going to start with Rob. Rob, this one's going to be tough because Clancy Brown is not easy to replace.
Absolutely. And he was so amazing in this role, as he always is. This was the first one I cast, actually. The minute, because I wanted to see him on screen, because his picture on IMDb, again, he looks about 104. But the minute he hit the screen and I remembered the character, one guy only came to mind. And this is a guy I'm also a huge fan of. And I would watch him read the phone book if I had to. And that would be the great Michael Shannon.
Yes. Oh, another. Chaz likes that one, too.
He is so amazing.
Well, he was Knives Out, The Shape of Water, Man of Steel, and let's not forget the young guy getting married in Groundhog Day. He's been around for a while, but it's only in the last 15 years he's really made a name for himself. He's great. Chaz, who do you have as the main guy and the guards?
Well, so Clancy Brown's character is kind of a sketchy dude. You know, he's tapping on a glass with that little nightstick thing. Like, ooh, that's like an authority figure of some sort. Like, he means business, right? So I went with somebody in Avatar who is kind of bulked up. Not the biggest guy, but he's kind of bulky. So I went with Stephen Lang.
Oh, Stephen Lang is one of my favorites. I love him. He should have been Cable. They went with Josh Brolin, but he was great. And whenever you see him, he is just tough as nails no matter what he does. He was in Tombstone and Avatar. Don't Breathe. He played a tough guy that was blind, kicking people's butts. And then a small movie that I know Alan Cerny, my co-host, just loved. I have not seen it yet. It's called VFW. And if you have a chance, definitely see that. That is from Alan's, one of those hidden gems. VFW is about a bunch of, obviously, veterans who have to fend off, something. There's some kind of fighting that's going on. I don't know if it's zombies. I don't know if it's punks. It's something. But it's actually a pretty good movie. And Stephen Lang is great. This one's tough. This one's really good because you've got Michael Shannon, who's big name. You got Stephen Lang, who, when people see him, they know him. He's the big name. I went with Armie Hammer. Now, please remember, I recast the entire season before the season started. He's a big, tall dude who's probably shifty, and it actually turned out that way. He seems to be some kind of weird cannibal. So I could easily see the head guard being a cannibal. After talking through the judges, we decided to go with Michael Shannon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Carefully so.
Thank you, sir.
Well, now we get to Gil Bellows as the young upshot Tommy Williams. Tommy's got a mouth and he's got a smile, and they both get him in trouble, especially in prison. So, Chaz, who do you have playing the young Turk who kind of spills his guts and gets Andy in trouble?
So he has this look of like this punk, like this 1950s young kid punk, you know, like all about the leather jackets and nice cars and babes, right? So I went with somebody who has that like in the 80s with like Nightmare on Elm Street, and I went with Johnny Depp.
Nice.
Johnny Depp.
Yeah. Actually, if you look up Crybaby, that's the movie that when you said Johnny Depp, I'm like, that's exactly who you want. He's out there characters like Pirates of the Caribbean, Nightmare on Elm Street, Edward Scissorhands, which is now Timothy Chalamet's Edgar Scissorhands. And of course, this picture here from Crybaby. Look how young he was. Look, this is back before he decided to hang it all up and not act like a real person. He just went crazy after Pirates movies. Oh, now I'm feeling a little nostalgia for young Johnny Depp again. Rob, who do you have to outdo babyface Johnny Depp?
Just reminiscing about a simpler time. When
Yeah, I
Johnny
know,
Depp
me
was
too.
just Tom Hansen on 21 Jump Street.
Yep, back when Johnny was actually
actually the
acting and
same
not
name
just
as-
being weird.
Yeah, Tom Hansen, also a very good friend of mine's name, too. I actually went in the same vein as Chaz, which is kind of interesting. I had to go with somebody that was that young punk. And when you talk about young punk movies in the 80s, there's only one, and it's The Outsiders. And so I had to go with 80s Matt Dillon.
Oh,
Yeah, he
Good
playing
one, too.
troubled kids on The Outsider, Rumblefish, but then he was in things like A Kiss Before Dying, and then capped his teeth for the best comedy in the world, There's Something About Mary. Good grief. I can't believe he had those teeth in that movie, but that's commitment. So we have Johnny Depp. We've got Matt Dillon. I went with Jesse Plemons from,
All right.
Game Night. He was also in Breaking Bad. I felt like he was... The thing about Tommy Williams is he's just an idiot who's just trying to make a name for himself without actually having to do anything. So he's just spreading gossip and stuff. So I thought Jesse would do that. Well, we talked about it. Is it going to be Johnny Depp? Is it going to be Matt Dillon? And Rob, we have gone with Matt
rightfully
Dillon.
so again.
So
Thank
now
you,
it's
sir.
4-2 Chaz. Now, Chaz, you are in a tough spot, my friend, because you need to not only pick well, and get the point, but I have to have picked it as well. So you have to not only pick for you, but you have to crawl deep into my brain. And what does Craig think? And that is not a place anybody should have to be to win a game. So here we go. One of my favorites of all of the movie, James Whitmore's Brooks, is such a sweet guy. I don't know what he did. I think he killed somebody when he was really young. He's a lifer. But him and that little bird is so sweet. And then to have him do what he's doing at the end, because life is so hard for convicts. Oh, I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it because he is so wonderful. So we're going to go with Rob. Rob, who do you have as the oldest man in prison who gets out and can't quite make it?
This was the hardest one for me to cast. This took me most of the film before I could get it. And in the context of the story, I love how Red and what he goes through really redeems what Brooks went through, and that's really sweet for me. I had to go with somebody that was older, that could pull off that lifer. He's got a little bit of a dark side to him, and you see like he doesn't want to leave. That scene alone is what solidified it for me, and I went with the great Lloyd Bridges.
Absolutely. I even got the face. We got the. So he's Jeff and Bo's dad, but so much more.
And it had to happen right now.
Yep. All right. I think we're back. So let's get back to Chaz. Chaz, we've got you. We just had Lloyd Bridges. So who do you have playing the great Brooks?
Well,
Yeah.
I went with another old guy.
More than that, I'll explain in a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, I went with another old guy. Fun fact, I actually haven't seen much of this guy's movies, so I only know him from Scary Movie 3 and Naked Gun. So I went with Leslie Nielsen.
So this is back-to-back Airplane stars.
Yeah.
So Roger Ebert called him the Olivier of spoofs, being an Airplane, The Naked Gun. But Chaz, you are right. Well before he started being the goofy guy who walked around with a fart machine, he was a dramatic actor, which is why he was in Airplane. Is because he was known as an actor's actor. He was in the Poseidon Adventure and Forbidden Planet. He was the guy that, for all intents and purposes, was a straight-laced dude until you let him be funny, and then he went crazy and made a mint. And so it's strange. You both have Lloyd Bridges and Leslie Nielsen, the two stars of Airplane. Now, Chaz.
If you could see Chaz right now.
I know. And let's put Chaz on for a second here. Because Chaz, you've got something you got to do here. Now,
No.
I love Leslie Nielsen.
Oh, but
I absolutely it's Enrico Palazzo. Of course, I love him. So when you think about Leslie Nielsen, you only think about Scary Movie 3.
that's the first movie I saw him in. I was like maybe 7 years old when I saw that.
That hurts myself.
Well,
I know.
unfortunately, that did not happen. I went with Richard Jenkins, and Rob gets the point as well. Rob, you are the winner.
Even has a belt.
You are the best caster on the internet. Congratulations.
I am very excited right now. Chaz, an amazing contest. Always love talking to you. I feel like now I can run to be governor of Utah, as every person I've ever faced in this show has been from the state of Utah. I defended the honor of the great state of Texas. We have now won 2 seasons in a row. Randy Redacted, that was for you, brother. So much fun to do this. I've gotten to avenge one of my co-hosts, which is great. I would have avenged one either way, because both the guy that Chaz faced is that Jake beat Alex before that. So this has been so much fun. I'm so glad everybody tuned in. Alex just texted me that says the only great Utah is Johnny, which I don't know if I agree with that, but that's okay. But so much fun. Thank you to everybody that was a part of this. I've watched every week, whether I've been on it or not. Craig, you did an amazing job putting this together. 16 great people, and I've also made some great friends with this. Chaz being one of them. And I'm just such a fan of everybody that's been involved in this. Thank you for letting us be a part of it. And let's do it again.
Well, just so you guys know, let's go to the brackets, because the brackets were decided. The winner was decided weeks ago because nobody got the finals. So whoever it is, please, oh please, oh please, you won because you got 10. But if you notice, he got 6, 4, and then nothing. Nobody got anything from the last 2 rounds. This game was over at the end of round 2. So email me at matineeheroes@gmail.com, and you can pick one of your favorite t-shirts from our store, and you can have a Matinee Hero t-shirt. It could be the Indiana Jones, it could be the Batman Joker, it could be Wonder Woman, all manatees all the time. That's what we love here at Matinee Heroes. But before we go, it's been a hell of a season, and what really made it fun for me were the newbies. The veterans are always great. I have them on the podcast all the time. I love talking to them, so they're always great. But it's a lot of new people who came out and really took the risk to come on. First off, Jen Rome. What a sweetheart. She did a great job. She almost beat you, and she came real close to beating you, Chaz. She could be sitting in this seat. She's so
good. She is
our
lady of the house, and we love her to death.
She's great. Liz Cerna, who has been a friend of my wife and I's for years, did a great job. She'll be on the podcast soon, talking Kindergarten Cop. Ben Jones. I hadn't talked to Ben Jones since high school. He's a Facebook friend, and I hadn't talked to him in probably 20 years, but he stepped up and did a hell of a job. And then, of course, Jake Dietz. We all love Jake Dietz from Movies That Make Us. Talk to him all the time. RemoteCon has moved to April, so get excited for RemoteCon in April. We'll be doing it all over again. Of course, then there's Alex Barnhill, another newbie.
My dude.
The other of the triumphant triad over there at the Clubhouse podcast.
One of my best friends, and I'm so proud of him.
Richard Jensen, who's been on quite a bit. He's always good to have on. As soon as this COVID breaks, we can get him out of his house so he can actually start making some small films again. Joey Jones, who I was playing D&D with. That's the only way I know him. And then he got married, so hopefully his married life is treating him well. And of course, Chaz Evans, representing the entire newbie division. Well done. Really well done for his first year. Then we have our veterans. The ones we know, the ones we love, the ones we root for and against. Tracy Mangum, who you can't root against. He's always great. Always will be. He comes on the show constantly. He's a fan favorite. Patrick Beatty, Chaz's buddy. They've only had me on a couple times, usually at the last second when they need someone to bail them out. So hopefully that'll change. Steve Kondrick, who's going to be on the show soon. Him and his lovely wife, Izzy. Always great to have them on. And Kerry Gordon. Kerry Gordon is my lifeline to Comic Palooza. I just love him and his lovely wife, Kim. They do a great job. He's been podcasting for 15 years. So get with it, guys. Chaz, you got a long way to go before you can catch up to Kerry. He's fantastic. And then, of course, last season's champion, Randy Redacted, who, with his psychic-like ability, can recast most movies except Clue without watching the movie. The one time you have to watch the movie, he got screwed. But he was able to do things that only a magician could do. And then, of course, the lovely Valerie Cameron, who is so well-rounded. She's got everything you need. She knows sci-fi. She knows horror. She knows drama. She's out there every day on the radio doing stuff. So she knows how the regular folks are. She's got it all. And then Derek McCaw, who's helped judge quite a bit. He's been a great dude. He just moved down here to Los Angeles. As soon as the COVID breaks, we're supposed to have lunch, and I hope to see him soon. And, of course, Rob Irvin, the new champion, the best caster on the internet. Congratulations.
Thank
and
you,
then
sir.
finally, get to the judges, because I learned in the first season, I can't do this alone. Why? Because I have a fragile ego, and when people come at me, I cry. So I wanted to spread out the blame. And so Brendan Agnew, Alan Cerny, Zaki Hassan, James Owen, Devin Pike, and Elizabeth Rapp, and then finally Brandon Ushio. Thank you so much for helping me judge, helping me get this through. So wouldn't it just have to be me to make it as fair as possible? Because one thing I don't want to turn this into is a popularity contest. I want people to win on merit, not because they have 6,000 followers. And our judges done a great job. So I don't know what's going to happen to the cast off, but if you liked it, you can follow us at Matinee Heroes. I'll have all the updates there. Twitch.tv, you can follow us there, and Facebook. As of right now, we're going to go on hiatus for a little bit. It's going to be a couple weeks, months. I don't know when the next time we're going to be on. But when we do, I do know we are going to be part of RemoteCon. I will be doing this live at Comic-Cons. I was supposed to do them in several places last year, and unfortunately, thanks to COVID, we lost that. But I'm sure this will be at FanX and at Comicpalooza. I just want to thank everybody for being here, and on behalf of Chaz and Seasons 2 champion Rob Irvin, I'm Craig Price. Thank you for watching.